Hey, hello everybody. This is Melinda Russell with Let's Talk Racing Live. This is the weekly live show where I'm trying to keep some Southwest Michigan tracks front and center so that you don't forget about them when we have all these rainouts. Because last weekend we had a lot of tracks that had rainouts. And so, it's easy to find other things to do. And I don't want you to forget that these tracks are here and providing really good entertainment for your family, and so that's the reason for this show, but it's also another way for me to tell some stories. I've had Bryce Bozell on. He was really cool to interview, nice kid. Tony Eldridge was on, and Tyler Rohrig was on. And so tonight I got a good friend on. Drew, Jack, and I have been friends for probably at least 10 years, if not longer, probably closer to 15, I'd say.
It's probably been close to 15. We've been doing the traveling series stuff for 12, and I think we've known each other longer than that. So
Yeah. So probably 15 or more then for sure. And we've done some fun things together. Tony and I were reminiscing about the announcer's choice races that we did, and those were pretty fun. The I can remember one time I had to wear my winter coat. It was so cold. And then there was another time we did one and it was blazing hot, and so you just never know, but we did have some fun doing those for sure. And I think Seltzer said never again. So I think those are over and done with for sure. So, Drew, I know that a lot of people know who you are. You run the National Compact Touring Series, and you have for, like you just said, 12 years. Wow, doesn't seem possible. But just like when I talked to Tony, do people really know your story? Do they know how did you get involved with racing? And that's what I want to hear about tonight. I want you to tell me and the people that listen. And I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of people that listen later, not at 7 o'clock on Wednesday night. So don't be discouraged if you don't see any listeners. But I've been having a good amount of people listen later. So um, tell me back to the beginning. How did you get started loving motorsports? Who got you interested?
it was just my family. My dad took me to Kalamazoo Speedway as a kid, and um, you know, as I got older, 11 or 12, it was a cheap babysitter. They just dropped me off there, and I would hang out with. A lot of people don't know who Big Show Mark Flerman is and Brad Schellenberger. I would sit up and turn two top corner of the bleachers with them. Wouldn't even know it until later that we actually sat next to each other because we didn't know who each other was. There was an old guy, I think his name was Jim Devers or something. He was a roofer out of Wayland, and I would just sit up there with him. There was an older couple that was Mike Zordan's, I want to say, aunt and uncle or grandpa and grandma that sat up there with me too. And it was just like the same poor people that sat up there from like 1993 to until I crossed over to the other side. So, um, never ventured much over past Kalamazoo Speedway, Galesburg Speedway. Once I got my license and we started to travel a little bit more, we found Merle's place down at Southwest Michigan Speedway. Um, Back when he was still running late models before it truly became Merle World. Um,
Yeah.
but no, it's just growing up there, and unfortunately, all those people have probably passed since then because that was over 30 years ago, sitting in the grandstands, and got an opportunity to be a race car driver for a few years, and then I won't trade it for anything. It worked out. I raced. They didn't have a front wheel drive class back when I started racing. It was either street stocks and late models or super late models. And the street stocks, or what they called factory stocks back in the day, that wasn't a beginner class because you had Mike Zordon and Jimmy Burrows and the Leonard family, and so started racing limited late models at Kalamazoo Speedway for 2 or 3 years, and it just wasn't for me. So I became a car owner, and Matt Schick raced with me for a year, and then I just decided that I'd have more fun on the other side, and got an opportunity probably 2001 become a pit steward at Kalamazoo Speedway, and that's kind of how we grew from there. Went from being a pit steward to, um, you know, kind of wanted to be an announcer at the time, but I had to go elsewhere to figure that out. Got an opportunity for a brief time to be the announcer at Hartford Speedway. Really green, didn't work out, and then got a job at Angola Motor Speedway with Craig Everidge as a track announcer there. And I spent I think he had the track for 3 seasons down there. And that's truly where I developed becoming an announcer. When Craig gave it up, we came back to Kalamazoo to be a co-announcer with Jason, and still kind of wanted to be on the promoter side because I had a lot of fun doing with it at Angola. Craig taught me a lot down there at Angola Motor Speedway. It let me develop the schedule. I give him crap to this day. We've been friends for probably 20 years now, but he was a cheap old guy or cheap young guy back then, and he's still a cheap old guy now. The last year I was announcing, running the scoring system, and race directing. So there technically was 2 of us in the tower, and I was an intern from the local college there. And I wouldn't trade that for the world because I had a lot of fun with Craig. That's probably the funnest time in racing at Angola Motor Speedway. One of my favorite tracks of all time. So many friends down there that I still have today, and really do miss the place. Angola was, a great opportunity. And probably about the times that we started to cross paths is when I came over to M40 Speedway and worked with Kevin Kosher and promoted it for 2 years. Wouldn't trade that for the world. In between that, decided I was going to move to Las Vegas, and we had some good times out there with Send Out Cards. And when you and Ben came out there again, wouldn't trade those experiences for the world. It was just too dang hot out there, and came back here and kind of stayed out of racing for a year or 2, but ended up in Chicago working downtown for almost 8 years. And that's kind of when we picked up the racing thing again. Kind of helped out at M40 Speedway, and then had a compact touring series cancel an event on us. So the bitterness and the grumpiness of me say, I kind of joke about it today, and that was Vors. For whatever reason, they didn't want to come to M40 Speedway, and I remember talking to Dan on the phone, Dan Redmond. He's a really good promoter, done a lot of great things at Winchester this year, and Vors over the last, I think they got me by 13 or 14 years they've been around. They just did not want to come to M40 Speedway. Car counts, whatever, innuendo, rumors, whatever. It made my job harder. I said, dude, I had 20 cars ready to come race locally, and they just wouldn't. So chip on my shoulder, it was probably that second announcer's choice. We actually ran that first event that was supposed to be Vors under my banner of a compact series, and then we ran a test event at South Bend. And for a full circle back, the reason why we started it, we ended up going back to work with those guys for the first 2 years. Dan and Steve, they certainly helped me get this started. And, we already had a great base around here. Patrick McLamara, again, a name you probably haven't heard for a long time.
No.
He, a lot of people can say a lot of things about Patrick, but the one thing Patrick was really good, and where I got a lot of my promoting and some social media skills, is through Patrick, because he built the first ever Vors Cup, and I think there were 70 cars, our first ever event together that came down to Lucas Oil Speedway. And, Patrick, being Patrick, kind of didn't get along with the guys in orange. So it left me with the NCTS or Vors North at the time for probably a year or 2. But again, Patrick was very instrumental. If it wasn't for Patrick McLamara, there would be no National Compact Touring Series. I want to give him all the credit. It was a team effort for me and him. And like I said, he kind of dropped off the radar for 10 years. I think the last time I saw him is when we shared a booth at PRI, 2 or 3 years ago. Patrick has always been good to me, always been good to the compacts, always been good to NCTS. And from there, it's just grown. It's I never intended to be as big as we are or what we do, but we've accomplished a lot of firsts in our group. Vors was the first to go to Bristol, but we were the first to go to the Freedom Factory. We were the very first race
Uh-huh.
at a rebirth at a racetrack that had been closed. Because of that, and because of the opportunity that Josh and Garrett Cletus gave us there, that got us seen, and we got a phone call the following season to be the first touring series on the track for the first North Wilkesboro race, so the rebirth of NASCAR. So
Yeah.
you'd never think a little compact touring series would have such a big part of two iconic tracks that are known worldwide to have a rebirth, and that's something we take a lot of privilege or a lot of pride in, and take it as a privilege because not everybody's given that opportunity. And we've had some good years, we've had some really tough, lean years. We're in a really good year this year with the support that we got for both NCTS. We have the National Compacts and the Midwest Dirt. We're talking about, we were the first touring series to break in for compacts at Slinger. That's another thing on our badge. There were some bumps in the roads, but, we got through it. Scott and myself, we got through it. When you put two entities together, we were talking about it, like when we do the North Carolina stuff, the Florida stuff, or even in Wisconsin, you have so many drivers. Compacts are taken as, they call them crap boxes, and I will dispute that and argue with them all the time because, and I kind of got it. You'll laugh. I was at a lawnmower race and got in a disagreement with a lawnmower racer calling our cars crap boxes, and I said, we've outqualified street stocks at most tracks that we go to, and even some smaller quarter miles. My guys wouldn't even been the slowest super late model at the racetrack. They probably would have been third or fourth slow at Flat Rock a couple of years ago. So we take a lot of pride. Our drivers take a lot of pride in their cars. Obviously, we know we're not outlaw super late model racing. We're not sprint car racing. But we give a home for guys that don't have a budget for a super late model team that can travel with CRA or Jegs or the Cars Tour. The veterans that just want to drop down and travel to different racetracks. And that's kind of what we're about. I've completely started this series trying to give it young racers a place to start. And it's kind of the complete opposite, where we get the car enthusiasts or guys that just love front wheel drive racing or compacts or rear wheel drive 4-cylinders. That's kind of the story of how we're at and where we're at. And, again, we wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. We've had a lot of help along the way. Woody, we talk about Patrick McNamara. Woody's probably employee number 2. And then you got Denise and Bubba that are employee 3 and 4. And we've had a lot of great people like Dan Rigoni, Mike Richardson or Kenny Richardson. We can't forget J.R. Long. He was with us for a year.
Yeah.
Talk about a guy like Patrick that's just disappeared off the planet.
I know.
You see his name mentioned with Wars once in a while, but Brock Sweeter, another one. One name people won't recognize, and the reason I think has helped with a lot of the growth at the beginning. So when you're a traveling series, I had a lot of relationships with M40, Kalamazoo, Berlin at the time, but on the other side of the east side of the state, we didn't have a lot of relationships, and we would have to buy our way into the racetrack or get some sponsors or just get a hard no. And a guy that really helped with that and why we're so loyal to the MCR Dwarf Cars, Steve, the former owner who has passed away of the MCR Dwarf Cars, in fact, sponsored our first World Series, introduced me to Jim Leisure at Corrigan Oil, got us there. Owasso Speedway and stuff like that. So, without Steve Martin from MCR Dwarf Cars and Eric Hoffman, who runs it now, if we ever do a lease event or we have an opportunity to help that brand, and it's just about not forgetting who you came from, where you came from. Before the Mini Cup series that went away, another name that Kyle Trinkline. He had his, own Mini Cup series, and we would support that anytime, anywhere we could. I think one of the events that you were at was Galesburg Speedway, and Mini Cup series there. even though those aren't super late model sprint car organizations, those are the groups and the people that have helped us become what we are. And we're never going to put 5,000 people in the stands, but we have created a lot of cool opportunities. I mean, because of the Freedom Factory, even before the Freedom Factory, we had Kenny Wallace and Kenny Schrader racing with us.
Yeah.
Then we got the opportunity. I, to this date, have not seen Hailie Deegan race anything other than her own car or outside of NASCAR or the Indy Next. She came to Sandusky Speedway 2 years ago and raced with National Compacts. Last year we had Ben Rhodes. We had Ryan Priest, a part of our event at Kalamazoo. He ran a modified. He was slated to run a compact this year. That kind of fell through at the end because of some approval processes. But Ryan's a great person. Cletus McFarland, probably one of the bigger car YouTubers out there, more popular than any NASCAR guys.
Yeah.
Has raced with us. So there's a lot of cool things. We were just at Kalamazoo Speedway a month ago for Travis Pastrana. He's raced in our dirt series. Was supposed to race in the National Compact Touring Series. We got rained out. That same day, we went to Kalamazoo and ran lawnmowers. Go look at Channel 199. You see their video. I mean, it's just while I never thought this is what I would be doing for a living, or at least taking a break from working at CDW in Chicago and living that grind. A lot of people didn't realize I worked 50, 60 hours at CDW, and then I'd have another 30, 40 hours from. I would get off the train, or actually I'd be sitting at my desk at CDW working until 10 o'clock, then get on the 11 o'clock train and head back into Hammond, Indiana, or take the red line back over to Wrigleyville when I lived in the city. And it just got too much. And the way we grew, a big part of our business has become the Lee shows. The July 4th show at Kalamazoo has been a staple on their schedule. We'll talk about something we're going to announce tonight on your podcast. That actually might already be released on social media because I just scheduled it before I came on here. But, we just had a lot of fun, Melinda, met a lot of cool people like you, both Bens. We got rained out at Hartford Speedway 2 weeks ago. And it actually worked out because one of our friends from Virginia that races with us when we're down in Florida, Jesse Yop, was up here. I went up there, both me and Denise went up there and watched his kids play hockey. And it's about building friendships, relationships, and partnerships. Jim York, has been a very key instrumental guy in putting a lot of the cool stuff that we get to do with Channel 199 together. And we just wouldn't trade it for the world.
So I don't know if you can see the comments, but Tina Lewis is listening. So she said hi. And then Top Row Racing Media said that you guys are the fastest compacts around. So I'm going to go back down memory lane a little bit. So yeah, we did the announcer's choice, but I give you and Woody all the credit or the blame, I'm not sure which it is, from doing a podcast. Because back when you had your show, and it was a live show similar to this that we did through a different platform, but it ended up being live. And you would interview and talk about, racing or whatever. And then you asked me one night if I would be willing to interview a woman on your show. Sure, So I did, and interviewed several different women. Natalie Decker being one of them that we did, and developed a friendship with her because of that. I've interviewed her several times and met her whole family, and the whole, when you meet those people, you hear the name and you have in your mind what you think they're like, and then when you meet them, it's just like they're just like you and I. They just love racing. So you kind of kicked me off your show and told me I should probably have my own show, which I know you didn't really kick me off, but started my own show in 2018. And I would never have dreamed that I'm doing what I'm doing either, because I was always a writer and did the magazine and stuff, but I love interviewing and doing the podcast. Then I remember driving to PRI with you in December. You're telling me, asking me if I've heard of this guy Cletus McFarland, and I'm like, yeah, that name's familiar, but I don't really know who he is. So you're telling me who he is. Then pretty soon, here somebody calls, and we're driving towards Indy, and you're putting the deal together to take the compacts to the Freedom Factory, and that was a huge deal. I know for you that weekend, and just the different things that you've done, and to watch what you've done. And I know you worked hours and hours and hours, and spent I don't know how many hours on the road going from Chicago to Kalamazoo to wherever. And there's a time that people say it's enough. I can't do it all. That's why I gave up the magazine. I couldn't do it all, and I like the podcast. And so um, I love seeing where you are now, because you were just at Slinger, which is a track I really enjoyed going to a few years ago. And so it's important to me to have you on here and share kind of your story about how you got started. So Tanner Johnson, I hope you know who that is. Maybe or maybe not. He says thoughts on having the MCR dwarf cars around more often.
So every lease show that we do, they always have an opportunity to come. With this Galesburg show being put together that we'll talk about here in a little bit, it just wasn't in the works for 2025. But Corrigan Oil, Kalamazoo, even I forgot to tell you, I actually took on M40 Speedway for a full season under my own leadership and my own money for a year, and we brought the MCR dwarf cars in a couple of times during that. But anything we can do, I think we helped introduce them to Berlin Raceway. It's not just racing with me. Any series that works with me and is respectful and is just a partner. That's all we ask is a partner. We're going to help promote them and help them, because that's what Steve Martin did for me. That's what other racetrack promoters did for me. Jeff Striegel will stand up at if we're lucky enough in Michigan to have a promoters association. Not many states. The only other one that I'm aware of is Wisconsin, and we get to meet at MIS every October and a hotel in Lansing every twice a year. And Jeff Striegel will get up and many times has mentioned the hard work of NCTS, not just National Compacts or myself, but other entities that come in there, and that goes a long way. Mm-hmm. So when I do the same, I talk MCR dwarf cars. We did have a relationship with the Ohio Wheelman, but unfortunately things have worked out where they've needed to stay in Ohio for to get their brand going again, and they're doing very well down there. So it's just all about relationship building, not burning those bridges. The dwarf cars, I don't think they can take on any more races. They have more races than anybody else I know. I think Eric has 18 or 19 races a year, almost every other weekend, every weekend, sometimes double headers. I see them at Plymouth and all these racetracks. They just do a great job, and they keep a constant car count. They go from Whittemore to Plymouth, which is probably an 8-hour difference between that and in between. So yeah, I know I got a little long-winded on there, but another thing I need to bring up is Tina Lewis is very instrumental in what we do as well too. She's the very first season of NCTS. Her and Glenda Metz actually took over my points because I didn't know what the hell I was doing with it, and they did a great job with it. And ever since then, her and the Metz have been very long time friends. We've had some bumps in the road, but they certainly have been there for us.
Yeah. So tell me what this big news is. Are you ready to share it?
I am. So, I always do too much. I don't ever listen to anybody.
Yep.
I've had a few people out of Ohio talk to me and tell me we need to do a certain kind of compact racing. So we were going to run a test event at Corrigan Oil. It got rained out. So after our rain out at Flat Rock, we're struggling because we have a Hoosier Challenge series that's only got one race in, and all 4 races have been completed. The other 3 have been rained out already. That Flat Rock should have been the last race. So my longtime friend Woody has been putting pressure on me to bring NCTS over to Galesburg Speedway. So on August 24th, we're gonna bring the first part of this announcement, the NCTS Figure Eight Series. There, it does have its own Facebook page. I'm gonna caution you guys. We don't know how much of a need or want this is for this, so this is a test race. If you want to see 4 or 5 races next year at Galesburg, Corrigan Oil, Lewis brought up, talking to New Paris. Owaso's got a figure 8 track, and we have a great relationship with Flat Rock, but we can't be bringing 3 or 4 cars, and we can't be having cars running both. It's got to be a separate entity. So we'll pay $500 to win, $75 to start. And again, I just word the urge of caution. If you want to see this take off and be a part of next year's schedule for 4 or 5 races, probably mainly on our lease shows. The NCTS Figure 8 Series, it has its own Facebook page. You can find it at NCTS Figure 8 Series as the name of the page. There is a press release that probably just went out on National Compacts about 10 minutes ago. So some people know that. I just switched over our mini wedge series. Yes, we did mini wedges too for 4 or 5 years. We've kind of outgrown that, so I've been trying to give this page away, so I figured I'd just flip it over to the NCTS Figure 8 Series. So 2 announcements tonight. Galesburg Speedway, the National Compacts will be returning after about a 5-year absence. We look forward to working with Jeff Sales and his mom, Tammy. This will be a non-points race, but it'll be a Hoosier points or Hoosier Challenge Series points race. So the main NCTS points won't be there, but all the same guys are running the Hoosier Points Series. There is some rumblings and rule that we might toss the rule book out on this one, where they can run wings and sideboards and any tires they want. We just got to judge the interest on it. We haven't, honestly, Galesburg being we got Galesburg, M40, and Kalamazoo that are probably within 45 minutes. Kalamazoo and Galesburg probably only 20 minutes away from each other. Mm-hmm. And we have not been to Galesburg many times. So if you want to see us back, there's going to be some conditions on this. Support the show. Yeah. And be professional while you're there. Because we feel that Sales and his family and Tom McGee have done a good job of keeping things in check there, and have not heard any negativity over the last 3 years out of Galesburg Speedway. For the most part, so we're excited to be coming back. Yeah. Every track from Kalamazoo to Galesburg to Berlin, we all have issues that people don't agree with. And, getting on social media, that's another podcast. It's just not the answer. But the condition is everybody gets on there. We get supportive of this. We make it a successful event that it's worth the Sales family and the McGee family at NCTS. We're also running an enduro that night. We're going to bring in the Power Wheels for the kids, a coin toss, spectator drags, and we're going to start at 6 o'clock. We're not going to start at 6:45 on a Sunday. Technically, we have 2 classes that really need hot laps and practice, so we can pull that off in 2 hours.
Yeah,
hour and a half, and we want to be out of there by 9 o'clock, 9:15 at the latest, and we want to have everybody paid by 9:30, so that they can go to work, they can go home, go to sleep, go to school, because a lot of kids will probably be in school by then.
Yeah.
So when we put our events together, we want to make sure that we're not, again, compacts, and this is no disrespect to this class, but we all know that we're not going to put, there's been 1 occasion that we've done that, 2 occasions actually. Hartford Speedway, for some reason, we had 2,500 people in the stands, and that was one of our first or second seasons, and under the first season of Tim and Leah's ownership. Couldn't explain it. We were the headliner. There were 2,500 people there. The other one was the Freedom Factory, but those are the 2 places that we can get away with it. So we got to do the enduros. We got to do the figure 8 racing. We got to do the family-oriented events. We're not looking for a sold-out crowd. That would be great, but if we could get 500, 800, 900 people there, that event will be a huge success, and you'll see it
Yeah.
on the schedule next year.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the thing, people have to remember that um, you've got to support racing continuously, I guess I would say. You can't go 1 week and then not go for months, because the cost for those tracks and those promoters and all those guys that are trying to race, they don't stop. And people get lazy about, or take for granted that, oh, Kalamazoo Speedway, it'll always be there for me to go watch whenever I feel like it, or Galesburg, or any of them. And you see racetracks closing left and right, and so we know that we have to support them. So some more comments here, Drew. So Bill Russell, no relation, from M40 checked in. He said it's hard to hear because they're practicing there. And then Top Row Racing says, we're looking forward to being there on August 24th. Excited for Galesburg to have a big showcase. Tina Lewis wants to run in the Power Wheels class. She said she misses those days. And then Tanner Johnson said MCR is ready to storm Russell's M40 Speedway on August 23rd.
Yes, absolutely. Another strong partner, and we become good friends. I've known of Johnny and Bill forever. They actually came to the first announcer's choice, and we can talk about that in a minute, because that's probably one of the coolest experiences I've ever had, and it'll never be duplicated again, even because Mottville's gone now. But they've took a chance on our Winter Enduro Series that we've done there in the past, and last year was the first year that we did it with them, and they went really well. Actually, it might have been the second year. I don't remember. I'm losing my mind. I think this is the second year we worked with them, but Penny and John have become really good friends. Bill, they work hard as anybody else there, and that racetrack they deal with, nobody knows it's there, and that's not their fault. It's been like that for the 20 years it's been there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sitting at a sold out demolition derby last year, 10 miles from that place in Cass County, talking to these really nice people. I'm like, hey, if you really enjoy this stuff, we got a racetrack right down the road. There's a racetrack? Yeah, you drove right by it to get here. Well, almost. But and that's what they deal with. And they do a really good job. Megan has done a really good job on social media, making people aware of the racetrack. So we hopefully will be doing some enduro stuff with them through the winter. And we do a lot of stuff, more than I can't even remember all the stuff that we do.
I don't know how you had time to work. I know there were days I think you spent more time doing this than you did working for CDW, because I don't know how would you have gotten it all done. I've watched you run yourself ragged for a long time, so I'm glad to see you doing this.
I made enough phone calls and talk time on conference calls to make it look like I was doing what I was doing. And I'm going to tell you, life is all about relationship building. I mean, and that's the same for your job, for your hobby, for your friendships. It's about relationship building. I didn't have to make 200 calls at CDW like they wanted you to be a successful salesperson. You just had to build those connections and trust. And that's the same thing with the racing business. And I'll tell you, I've met some characters in the racing business, and it's sometimes it's hard to swallow, but there's a lot of more good than what there is bad, though.
Yeah, that's for sure. So not to put you in, get you in trouble with anybody, but do you have a favorite track that you like to go to?
The honest answer is I really don't. We've been to Bristol, we've been to the Freedom Factory. I guess I would say the coolest experience I've ever been a part of is North Wilkesboro.
Yeah.
And it has more to do with the experience, because it was a rundown racetrack.
Yeah.
And it still showed shades of being a rundown. It did not have the repairs it did. It had just enough to get it open. And the community, you could see, was affected by NASCAR leaving there. Here in Kalamazoo, you see these new Holiday Inns being built all the time around the highways of Battle Creek, or, we're spoiled there. We're trying to find a hotel there, and you're staying at like a Howard Johnson that's the 1980s and
Uh-huh.
1970s, even though it's got 8, 9 stars on it or 5 stars on it. Just that experience, and it's the people we met. We have made lifelong friends with the Carolina Mini Stock Tour from Shane Knipe, and we ended up in a after one practice night, um, they invited us to their pool hall. While we were driving around, uh, I think it's over by Hickory Speedway somewhere. It's about 45 minutes from North Wilkesboro. Couldn't find the place, and I kept saying it's here. While it's down in a basement, it literally felt like it was like a mob story. You get down there, and it's just a pool hall, really good pizza, really good wings. Unfortunately, it's closed now just because that's how things have changed in the last 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
But just that experience, North Wilkesboro, the community, the people, the racetrack, Dale Jr. watching a compact race.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know of some of the famous people that follow the NCTS page. Not that we follow them, they follow us. Dale Jr. is one of them.
Right.
Cletus McFarland, stuff like that. And people, that's why I say be very careful with what you do, because you never know how it'll affect you. If we did bad things, do you think, Jim York would entrust us to bring Travis Pastrana in, or
No.
Haley Egan would race with us, or, or the defending truck champion last year, Kyle Rhodes,
Yeah.
2 years ago. Those are just the experiences we get to create with our racers, and that's why mannerism on social media and just in life and being a good person. I understand life can be.
Yeah.
Nobody takes more heat than a racetrack promoter or series owner or track owner. It's just
Especially when the weather, that's
yeah,
the thing that I think, it's out of your hands. And if you cancel too soon or you wait, no matter what you do, somebody's mad and bashing you on social media. And it's like, come on, people, put yourself in those shoes.
yeah,
If you do, and if you don't, you're gonna get crucified. And I've always said that somebody said to me, well, in fact, when they said something about it's Russell's M40 Speedway, this person thought it was me. I'm like, oh hell no, I will never own a racetrack. I said it was bad enough being part owner of a race car, never, because no matter what you do, people are going to be mad. They don't like your rules, and they don't like the calls you make and all those things. So yeah, no
Linda,
way.
I used to take it so personal, and I used to let it beat me up. And I'll share this story publicly. 2021, I think it was 2021. We had a doubleheader weekend at Galesburg Speedway. It's when I lived in Chicago. It was the air show. I just had enough of racing, and I felt my team could run the race that was there. Um, there was some disagreements between the management team and me, or hard feelings that I think that were put in place by certain people that weren't really there. So I just elected to stay away from the racetrack. And I kid you not, the first night really nothing. I don't remember. Actually, I think I don't know for the first night or second night. My phone started blowing up. Not at the racetrack. I'm just trying to watch the Blue Angels fly by, and um, I've never had a pit in my stomach of so much anger at me, and I'm not even at a racetrack. There was a incident where I think it might have been the Sunday night. Two cars got into it. I got a phone call from a staff member. Woody's down in the infield taking pictures, and so is Bubba, and we got a disagreement up here in the pits. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And so we got through it, and we had to make some decisions afterwards, and some drivers didn't agree with those decisions, and we're friends today still, but it's just how racing works out.
Mm-hmm.
Woody's getting just tarnished on social media, and I made it a point, it's just not worth it for me.
Yeah.
So I made an agreement to sell the series, and it was that close. The series was sold, a verbal agreement was put in place, and then I believe that year you and I were driving to PRI, and we got that phone call.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what changed everything, of at least trying to keep me into the game a little bit longer. um, and
Yeah.
we've stayed in contact with those people that were going to purchase the series. And I don't ever say never. I will be back a 13th season. I want to dispose of those rumors, but you know that's that's not the main reason why we weren't at Galesburg for those years. But honestly, it just was not a good experience for us. And it had nothing to really do with the racetrack. It had to do with drivers, and it
Yeah.
had nothing to do with what happened in our series. It carried over from another racetrack.
Yeah.
And to this day, I think those guys do get along and they do race together and they're very competitive. But it just that's why we haven't been to Galesburg. And I do owe somebody a phone call here because this just got put together in the last 24 hours.
Okay.
And so it's not everybody on my team knew about it yet. But like I said, I feel comfortable with what Tammy and Jeff have done there. Top Row Racing Media. I want to thank Lewis. He gives our group a lot of coverage with short track racing. He's going to be there. I think this is going to be a fun family event. And, some people would think you'd be crazy at certain tracks mentioning that, but Galesburg is a family track. It's always been a family track. Like any track, they're going to have disagreements in their family.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, people, because it's Galesburg Speedway, they blow it up more than what it should be. And Galesburg has always been a staple of the community, and I really feel this will be a good event. But so not many people knew that story and how we almost became owned by somebody else. And I'm not saying I'm not getting any younger. I'm missing my Saturdays.
Hey, now be careful. I'm way older than you.
And there is a lot of stress, and I mean, from Memorial Day to the Slinger race, it was nonstop. Rainouts, leases, meetings, and just stress, and it almost took me under. I mean, there's a lot of people that saw it. Hey, are you all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'll get through it. But now we're through it, and a lot of other things that people don't know, that I've been helping other racetracks with different things, and social media. We do have another company that manages social media for other racetracks, and it's just it's a job that's supposed to be fun, that sometimes that isn't fun, but we try to make it fun all the time.
Well, and I don't think there is a perfect job that's never going to give you any heartache or stress, but there's nothing I'd rather be involved in than motorsports, because the bottom line is there's no better people out there. You might disagree with them here and there, but just like Tina wrote, relationships in our racing community is amazing. I've gotten through a lot of rough times because of the support from the racing family. I can say the same thing. I was at MIS, and I had Woody came to my car window. He saw me when I pulled into park, and he said, "We lost Ben." I thought he was talking about my Ben, and he was talking about Ben Raber. And I was at MIS that weekend, and what a hard thing to go through. And then when I lost my Ben, the racing people are the ones that reached out and really cared the most, even though, he probably had people that didn't like him when he was racing and stuff too. But when things happen that are hard, the race family is there for you. Sonny Swartz. Do you know Sonny Swartz?
I've heard the name.
He said, I enjoyed racing with y'all a couple years ago. So he needs to come back and race with you again.
Yep. The NCTS stuff last year was kind of scarce some nights. We had some good car counts through the season, but it was a struggle to get cars. This year, we have not struggled to get cars. And we had 20 on opening night, 17 at Birch Run, and then everybody started getting their stuff together. We had 34 at Kalamazoo and 33 at Slinger, and I suspect we'll be in the low 20s at Berlin. I suspect that we'll be 30 cars strong at Galesburg and M40, and we'll probably be close to 100 cars at Owasso to run out of schedule.
Yeah.
Um,
yeah. July 4th was a good show, Tina said. Yeah, it
It
was,
was
Tina.
it was a lot of fun, and this is no disrespect to sprint cars. They're just hard. Not the organization. Sprint cars are just hard to fit into a show with them
Yeah.
being push started and taking a lot more time. But they were fun to have around. I
Yeah.
think fans enjoyed them. But the MCR Dwarf cars I think stole the show as they do every year. NCTS wasn't a bad race. Actually, Matt Elsie Jr. got beat by an out of towner. That doesn't happen there. Even if he wasn't even in his regular car, he was in his dad's car. But his dad's car is still a good car. So it just shows the competitiveness in our series.
Yeah, and you know what? That series is important because everybody doesn't have big sponsors or thousands and thousands of dollars to spend on a car and to travel and to have the opportunity for somebody to have a less expensive car. It's all expensive. Come on, let's be honest here. But a less expensive car and be able to go to North Wilkesboro and all these different places. um, you're giving guys and gals an opportunity to do some things that they would never else get to do. How many people can say I raced at North Wilkesboro? That's pretty cool.
Not very many short trackers. Um,
No, no, for
you
sure. So Drew, what's the rest of your schedule look like? I know we're going to M40, you're going to Galesburg. What else have you got going on?
So we have two series. We have the Midwest Dirt. We have a doubleheader weekend, August 8th and 9th at Crystal on the 9th, Mount Pleasant on the 8th. And then September 20th, we have our season championship. That's hard to believe. It's our 6th annual Nightmare on Bowie Street at Hartford. Tim and Leah have been my strongest friends, supporters, and allies on the dirt side and short track racing. Tim and Leah have become very good friends of mine. Every year they give me a sash saying I bought the racetrack, and that rumor is false. I have no ambition. 5 years ago, when I was working at CDW making a very good living, I had ambitions to own a racetrack, and then I saw it. I'm not meant to own a racetrack. I'm meant to own a traveling series. That's my
Yeah.
fit in life and lease racetracks. But Tim and Leah are great people. We want to thank Hartford Speedway. Um, so that's the dirt side. And then we got August 2nd at Berlin Raceway. That'll be a good race. Berlin, Jeff Striegel, their staff, always first class.
Hmm.
And then August 16th at M40 Speedway. That is our favoriteest event of the year. That's our asphalt Down syndrome race.
Yeah.
Denise Williams puts so much work into that.
Hmm.
And her friends that she's met people from the Down syndrome organizations that now help put this together. Really good friends of hers. So the Russells open their doors and allow those families to come in. We put them on the party deck. They become honorary crew chiefs. A lot. The one thing when you ask me, well, what, we can't believe we didn't touch about it is the Race for Kids' Sakes. I started the Race for Kids' Sake probably 2001, 2002, and I always try to use vehicles that we have to help with charity. Race for Kids' Sake probably raised $250,000, $500,000 in the 15 years that it was around. And Katie Bolzell was the co-founder of that. Todd Foote, Kevin England, the Shannon family, there's so many people there. Jason Seltzer, Ben Raber helped out with it, So that's why we use national compacts in our leased events to give back to the community. 4th of July, we did a Kid Again program. The screenshots that we got from the person that runs the program that showed all the families enjoyed it and their appreciation. We had 150 plus people there that don't get these opportunities.
Right.
And the same thing with the Down syndrome. We did a dirt Down syndrome race this year. Kenny Wright does the autism race at Kalamazoo Speedway.
Hmm.
And I wish more tracks would use their foundation and their community to do more community-oriented events. And not only does it help your program, it just helps people in general. So we're super excited about that. The Russells have been great. Kalamazoo Speedway was great with the Kid Again program. we're going to try to put something for August 24th. I thought about reaching out to the Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and inviting them of Kalamazoo. A very good friend of mine that was non-racing related was a member and a big brother, and I think it'd be a good tribute and maybe an organization that can bring local people to Galesburg Speedway that might not be there. We'll donate the tickets to that. Then of course we got the World Series of Compacts on September 6th. Owasso Speedway Rex and his entire crew. We were kind of looking. The World Series was almost dead last year, and Owasso Speedway took it on, and we had 73 cars. And we've made it a personal ambition to have 100 cars there for that event. Actually, we just did a suicide awareness race. That's how many community-oriented races we do, Tina.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, our staff is just so small that if we can get some more people to step up and help, like if we could get a champion of each of event we wanted to do, I can't ask Denise to do 10 events. She would probably go to an insane asylum. She's probably close to being there because of me. But, we have a mental health awareness. We lost. It was probably the toughest thing. And I almost was done this year. It had nothing to do with the race car drivers or attendants or cars or anything like that. We lost Chris Mize. Chris from Sandusky Speedway. And honestly, when you don't see it coming and mental health awareness and suicide awareness is going to be a big part of our organization moving forward.
Well, maybe Tina and I are going to have to co-chair that for you. We both been affected. It's personal, I think. I know it is to me. Not sure about Tina, but
it is for us. And honestly, I hate to say it, I'm kind of glad Flat Rock got rained out this week because that's the last race we ever worked with Chris. Mm-hmm. And the first one without him was the World Series, and that was the toughest one. Man, that guy was a roughy old man, but he was so well connected in the racing business. And he's part of the reason why I stayed in it, because I don't deal well with criticism. I don't deal well. I own my mistakes. I know I'm going to make them in the future, but you don't need to belittle somebody for doing that.
No.
And Chris was my hammer. He if we had an issue, I'd just go right to him, and I'd have a conference call, and it'd be fixed within 10 minutes. And he will be somebody that's a lot of people didn't know he had such a big involvement in our organization the last 3 or 4 years. And again, that's connections. Sandusky Speedway. He didn't know me. We've probably been going there 7-8 years now. He didn't know me from Adam from Eve. He said, "You want to buy your way in?" I said, "Sure. I want to get into Ohio to get some of those guys races." And after 5 years, I finally got him to pay my purse, full purse. Yeah. And then, that's how we got Haley Deegan. That's how we got Rhodes, is because of their connections to Rich Lucius, and they trusted us with this, and we did a good job with it. So but back, one more question, and I will let you. I don't want to.
No, this is good. This is why we do this. Oh. Tina said she'd love to, so you've got co-chairs for next year for that.
Absolutely, if it's Galesburg, Kalamazoo, or
wherever.
We'll make it happen.
Okay.
I'm going to try to start working on my schedule in September. October is usually when we have a good shape of it. By November, it's usually done.
Yeah.
But back to the funnest, we talked about North Wilkesboro. Jason, Tony, and I, we're three different people, but we have the same passion. Yeah. We disagree with each other a lot, and we might argue with each other a lot, and we'll never bash each other on social media or talk bad about each other on social media. But the funnest time I ever had with those three was the Announcer's Choice, the original one. It was originally my going away party to go to Vegas. Like, this is what we were going to do.
Uh-huh.
Our goal, I think, was to get 80 cars to maybe 100 cars to Montville. And I think we had 140 some cars, the most cars that's been there under Merle's regime ever. They were parked in the parking lot. And I just remember Merle coming to M40. We hadn't heard from Merle. We were like, that son of a gun. We made him so much money. We're we're. I mean, we were gonna throw him from the announce tower when he got there. Both me and Jason and Tony were working at M40 at that time. Here comes Merle showing up, and we were so mad. We haven't heard from him. Hadn't heard nothing. Comes up to the tower, man. We were just about ready to say something. He hands each of us a card, and that card was a little check for our effort. We didn't ask for it. That wasn't part of the deal. And it was a very nice note. And I wish out of all the times that I've moved from Las Vegas to Chicago that I still had that. I think hopefully Jason or Tony still has it. But in that note, it said, hey, I just want to send Judith and I really appreciate everything that you did for us. Just so you know, the money that we made from this event, we gave you each a little check. And we've taken all the money and put it back into Montville Speedway. So they put new sidings, new buildings, new roofs on their buildings. And it was the nicest letter. Again, Merle, everybody can have their opinion on. At the end of the day, he was like us. He loved his racetrack. He meant good. And at the end of it, he goes, you'll have to find a new home for your event.
Oh, yeah.
Have to do this again. It was just overwhelming for him. You've already outgrown Montville. So we were like so mad at him, then so gracious. And then we're like, did we just get kicked out of here?
Yeah, no kidding.
All in one. And that will probably be with North Wilkesboro my greatest racing memory I've ever had.
Yeah.
Sitting in the tower with him at 4 a.m, one at a time. Tom Pearson smoking a cigar. Merle sitting there with his glasses, and one at a time. Drivers, I mean, you know how many payouts Jason and I and Tony had to hand deliver because drivers didn't want to wait?
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
It was literally at like 4 a.m. when we finished payout.
Yeah.
It was just such an awesome and amazing experience.
Yeah. And, you know, you can go back and you're going to have a lot more of those down the road, I think, too, Drew. But, you know, you look back at the different things, you know, like Montville, I mean, Gail and I went there for send out cards and different things. And I'd never even heard of Montville. And I went there, and it's just all the people I've met and the people I've met through, you know, like you guys and here locally, and then, you know, nationally and even internationally, I would have never met had it not been for motorsports. So I'm just so grateful that when my kid was 4 years old, he sat at the front row at Quincy, Illinois racetrack and couldn't get enough of racing. And then he spent his graduation money and bought us a car behind my back, and he got me into racing. And it's changed. It changed our lives. It changed my family's lives. My, you know, everybody that's raced, and so it's just been a blessing for sure to be involved with not just motorsports, but I'm like you. It's the relationships I've built. It's the friendships. If I needed to call, if I needed something and I called you and said, "Hey, Drew, I need this," I know you're there. So that's the thing that matters the most to me for sure.
Absolutely. You know, I take one of the first times that we released Sandusky Speedway. I think we called it the All Jacked Up Race. We were all excited about it. We're going to run it in Enduro. And it was early April, and the forecast just was not favorable for it. And we had Ron Burrash come down with the vintage group. Did so much promoting down there. The weather just killed us. I think we ended up with like 20 compacts and 3 pure stocks, and we put it in a 1-day show instead of 2-day show. And Chris Mice, to the day he passed away, was like, I don't know why you did that. I said it was because people don't understand the business side of racing. Like, you don't want to lose money, and that's why a lot of times you can't. But sometimes you just have to go through with it. And it was one of those events that you just had to. I felt so bad because we sat at the Bob Evans or Denny's. We had this great planning meeting with you, JR. Even JR goes, I don't know why you're doing with this. Then at the end, when we're doing payout, he goes, I see why you did this, because the drivers appreciated it, and it goes a long way. And that, I mean, needless to say, we didn't leave Sandusky Speedway again, and it has nothing to do with them, but it's just we've learned doing things so far away from home. other than the Freedom Factory, is the only other one we've had success with.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, you live and learn. It's you, if you don't try it, you don't know. And so Bill Russell said Montville was where it all began for him. So a lot of people can probably say the same thing, Bill, that Montville was where they first started racing. Yeah.
That's the first time I ever saw him. He was there at the first race I ever went to. There might have been 8 or 9 late models, but that 711 car was the one there, the yellow, red, and yellow and red number 711 or 7 car of John Russell. That's where I met Crazy Joe. And
Yeah.
actually, they all came. They brought cars to come support our race there. They were one of the last ones to pull in, and I think they were close to parking in the parking lot.
Yeah. So cool. Well, Drew, this has been great. I'm glad that you were able to be on the show tonight, and you're welcome anytime, that, to be back on, because that's kind of where it started for me, was with you and Woody. So, and we had some crazy nights trying to get technology to work and all the different things. And tonight
Yep.
I was thinking, oh dear, what's going to happen, because I have Spectrum for TV, internet, phone, the whole bit. It's the only option I have where I live. And they were down the road working, and till about 15 minutes before the show was going to go on, I didn't have any internet. And so I was sitting here praying, please let the internet come back on. And luckily it did. So that was good. So
It's always a pleasure talking to you, Melinda. I appreciate everything you've done for us as a sponsor, as a friend, as somebody volunteering to help at our shows. It's not easy doing what all of us do, and
no.
You can see a lot of negativity on social media almost every day, but gosh darn it, just take some of the positivity. If you're mad at somebody, just be mad at them.
Be mad at them or talk to them personally. Don't
Yep.
don't air your dirty laundry on social media.
Yep.
It doesn't make you look good, and you're trying to make other people look bad, and really what it does is it makes you look bad. So that's kind of my opinion about it. But anyway. So I know you probably keep track of the mini wedge. Kalamazoo's got a big mini wedge program going on, and they're going to be racing. Let me see if I can. This Sunday, they're racing mini wedge juniors and seniors, and if I'm not mistaken, they just raced at Berlin, I think, last weekend. I thought I saw Kenny Head driving the golf cart for the mini wedges, and so that's pretty cool. There's some great young drivers in the mini wedge series, and that's like a hot series all over the country right now, because if you are on Facebook or whatever, and I follow a lot of racetracks, and mini wedges is a big deal. So Hartford, that's one of your favorite places. August 1st, they're going to have cyber stocks. So I wanted to make sure that we brought that up for Tim and Leah. So August 1st, put that on your list if you're down in that area.
It's the only appearance of the All-Star Sprints as well.
Okay. See, you know things that I don't always know. So now Russell's M40. Maybe you know the answer to this, Drew. Why do they call it the Montville Stocks?
So when Montville closed, where the Russells cut their teeth, Bill started racing there. I guess that was their place. So it's kind of a homage to Montville, because they used to have a class called Montville Speedway. If you walk into the main entryway, they have the old Montville Speedway sign. You look over into turns 1 and 2, they have the old Montville Speedway bleachers there.
Okay.
The new owners, the church, pretty much let them take whatever or purchase whatever they wanted to bring over. They're having the Michigan Cup at the end of the year. So the Montville Stocks are a homage to Merle and Montville Speedway as being a stock, not a beginner class, but a stock class.
Okay.
A racer with that budget to race.
Okay. I was curious about that. So Russell's M40 Speedway. Tonight they had practice, Bill said. And so hopefully they have a good weather weekend, although good grief, it's not sounding so great. And then Kalamazoo this weekend. So last weekend we had rain, and I know Kalamazoo canceled. I think Galesburg might have canceled, and I'm not sure who else. I lost track. But this week we're going to pray for good weather. So Fast Friday's back, 7:30, and here's what's going to be: 2,000 to win Street Stock Showdown. So get on Facebook. You can find all about it there. But there's going to be the Steak and Shake late models, Honor Credit Union Limited late models, the TechWorks trailer set. Easy for me to say. TechWorks trailer sales street stocks. Try to say that fast. That's hard. 2,000 to win, which is a big deal for them. And then the front wheel drives O'Reilly Auto Parts. The gates open at 3:30. Adults are $15. Kids 12 and under free. And racing begins at 7:30 sharp. There's only 4 regular season weeks left. I can't believe it. It seems like we just started, Drew, and now it's almost, it's going to be over.
We thought last year was terrible on weather. This year's been even worse, which is when you're a seasonal business stinks. And,
it does. My dad was a farmer, and so I get when your income depends on weather, and so I get that part. But and it's not just here. I listened to a podcast from some guys out east, and they have the same. They're having the same problems we're having. So, it's all over the country. But so hopefully, we can get these races in this weekend. Then I can share who the winners are, because that's what I like to do. I want to give a shout out to the guys that are the winners. So, anyway, I want to thank you for being on. Is there anything we haven't talked about that we should before we hang up?
I think you got Galesburg Speedway has the Adam Van Avery Memorial Race, I think, on August 2nd, a big street stock race.
Yes.
Tim and Leah this Saturday have the Night of Destruction. They did do a very good job at that. New Paris Speedway, I'm not sure if they have a race.
Oh, the Sizzler. Go ahead.
Is that August 1st or 2nd or the...
Let me look that. I have something right here about it. I forgot about this.
Well, you're looking that up. I'll plug Corrigan Oil Speedway.
Yeah, go ahead.
They have a Sunday show this Sunday. I think figure eights, compacts, a big compact race. And I don't know if it's the modifieds or the late model sportsmen's this week, but they also run street stocks. Give Jim and them a try. Their Sunday shows are usually pretty good.
Yeah, it's Friday, August 1st. Modifieds, limited late models, and the outlaw late models. 6,500 is the purse. It's the 24th annual Summer Sizzler. The first time I ever went to New Paris, I was like, I had never been to a racetrack where they back their pickup trucks to the fence and watch. And I was like, that is so way cool. That sounds like right up my alley. I mean, I grew up on a farm, so that was pretty cool. But actually speaking of the Adams, the race for Adam at Galesburg, next Wednesday, Jesse and Little Jesse is what we call him. I don't know that he's probably loves being Little Jesse. It's Jesse and Jesse Jr. are going to be on the show, and we're going to talk about Adam, and we're going to talk about the race that's coming up and all of that. And they all switched their numbers to 2 this year. And so Top Row says New Paris is off this week, but Sizzler's August 1st, and Flagger Boy Twin 50s August 9th, the night after the Clash. So the Clash is coming up. We'll be talking about that here in another couple weeks. And so next week it'll be Jesse and Jesse Jr. Van Avery. We're going to talk about that race at Galesburg, and that's everything I have for tonight. Unless you can help me out with something else.
I'm sure we're missing something.
Probably.
Support your racetracks. I know that it's an important thing. And again, just be positive.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Drew, you've been a good friend for a long time. Hopefully we got a lot of years left to be friends and see each other at the racetrack. And hopefully you got a good rest of the season. I know you're busy, but at least it sounds like it's going to taper off a little bit. Maybe you can catch a breath.
Yep. Then we start working
all over
next year in August, September. It never ends.
What is it they call that? The off season? Oh yeah, there is no off season.
Yeah, the silly season.
The silly season. Yeah. Well, thanks again for being on. Thanks to everybody for your comments and for listening. And share this with anybody else that you think might be interested in listening to the show, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Thanks, Melinda.
All right. Thank you.